Hello, welcome. My name is Manuel. So quickly, let's learn how to create a multi-div section. In other words, called a multi-container section. So this section is a kind that have multiple layers of containers that houses content of the same variables. So possibly we might have an image here, an image in the second one and an image in the third one, a body text, a body text, a body text, a button, a button, a button. So something like that, just showing in the screen right now. Okay. So to do this, I have received several requests from students asking, having issues about this or asking how to go along this, whether they should go with grid layout or build it out themselves. Now, I want to make this very clear. We are creating a section like this and you want the divs, different containers inside of this particular section to have the same size. You can go with the grid layout. But if you want them to have different size, possibly the first container to have a width of 40%, the second one have a width of 20%, and the third one have a width of 40%, then you can go with the div style or pattern. Okay, so for this one, we are not doing practical. This is just a kind of sketch, a rough sketch to show you how we can go step by step on how you can go about making this, whether you want to make it as a grid or you want to make it as a container. So now we are going to draw out the first layer. This is our first section. Okay? Now what we're going to do here very quickly is we are going to list out 3 different sections which we are going to prep this section with. What this simply means is that we are going to create 3 or 4 sections here, and we are going to go step by step by step, and everything we do in this step we are going to actually point it to make up this particular website. So this could be our wireframe and this will be our main sketch. So every mistake or every corrections we do from here, we're going to transfer it very quickly here. So we are assuming that this is a section we just created, and that's the first level. You drop in a section when you come into an inner container. Like this is an inner container. This is the main thing you see when you try creating a website, whether in the home page, about us page, contact us page, whatever page it is. This is the inner container, or I call it the inner section. So the inner section is just the white space. We didn't create it. It's just there. Okay, for you to start building on. So we drop our first Canva, which is our section. So this section, let's assume that this section is the services section, and we want this section to have 3 services inside of it. And as we know, the 3 services must have the same width of image, the same size of heading text, the same size of body text, and the same size of button and style of button. You get the point? So what we're going to do is this. First off, let's sketch out the first level of this. The first level of this is to drop in a div inside of this. So let's sketch this section here. And the first thing we need to do is to what? Drop in a div in here. Okay, so now we have a div in here. It can be in the middle if it is oxygen you're using. It can be in the middle, it can be at the top, it can be at the bottom part. Now, next thing you need to do is to select on this div, which is this one currently. Okay, and make sure that all content inside is middle aligned and center aligned. What this means is that we need to make sure that everything is in the center. So middle aligned, it's in the center row like this. And then it is also center aligned, which means from left to right, it's also pointing to the middle. So from horizontal aspect, it's pointing to the center, and from vertical aspect, it's pointing to the what? Middle. So we have it all aligned and everything is in the middle. Okay, so this is the first level. Select on the container, make sure it's left center aligned and middle aligned at the same time. Okay, you're using oxygen or any tool you're using is still the same process. Make sure you're middle aligned or center aligned. That's the first step. And we are not going to do that here because you understand what it means. So now when we middle align this container, what thing again we need to do is to stretch this container to touch the edge. Now, this section we dropped here is going to be 100%. This is going to be on percentage, okay? 100% width. Okay, this is going to be view width, okay? Not the view height. View height is vertical, view width is horizontal. So this is 100% view width, which is from this beginning to this ending part. Is going to be 100%. So this section we dropped first is 100%. From left to right, 100%. Okay? Now we know that. Now the next thing we need to do is that the container inside of here, we don't want it to be 100% anymore. We want some spaces to the right and some spaces to the left. I see some people do it this way. They're going to make this container inside 100% and then use padding to adjust it from this side, or use padding to adjust the section. Don't do that. Okay? That's not going to feel well when you're trying to make your responsive design. When you're trying to make your design responsive, you're going to find a lot of hiccup because in every section, you're going to start adjusting all of those left and right padding. But if you are doing it with just the spacing style I'm trying to give you, you're just going to adjust only one element, which is making that width a particular percentage in that particular breakpoint. Now we've understand that, what we need to do in this one is to make this particular container inside 80%. So this is going to be 80% of 80 VW. So 80% over here of 80 VW. Okay, so that calculation is done, and we have 80% for the section, and then the container inside is going to be 80 VW. So if the container inside is 80 VW, we are going to be having something like this. Let's draw it out from here. Okay, perfect. Now, this container we drop inside, we see use the same procedure, make it center align and middle align. I don't need to sketch that again, you understand that. So we get to number 2 level, which is the next level in this particular section creation. What do we do here? Now we have this container here. We need to import the 3 elements which we want to style, which is the 3 boxes which will contain the 3 services we want to actually provide. So what we do here is what? We drop in another div inside of this particular one. Remember, we are now working with the 80% or 80 VW. We are not working this section. We are now working with the inner container. This is the child. This is the parent container. This is the child container. Okay. Now you're working with the child container, and this is the PC, and this is the CC. Very good. So this is the second one that comes after the main section. Main section dropped in. We dropped in this one here. Make it 80% width, and that is 80% width we are working with currently. Very good. So now we have that 80%, and we have actually established that particular standard. What we need to do now is to start dropping in our container inside. Now watch very closely what happens. Now, if you drop in a container inside of this, automatically that container is going to assume a width of 100% if it is Elementor page builder. If it's Oxygen page builder, it's going to assume, if it's a div, it's going to just assume a regular width at the middle. You have done, it's going to give you the size you want to give it. So whichever one you are using, no matter which one you are using, what I will advise here is when you drop in the div, make sure that this particular container over here is left aligned. Okay, is what? Left aligned, not vertical aligned. It's left aligned. You know, we have middle aligned, left aligned, and then we have the grid. So we have middle aligned like this, 3 layout. We have left aligned like this, and then we have grid layout, which feels like a box. Okay, so when you drop in these contents and drop in the container inside, make sure that everything is what? Left aligned. So everything is pointing to the left. Okay, so when everything is pointing to the left, if we duplicate this container inside of this div inside, instead of it cascading or stacking vertical like this, it's going to stack horizontal like this. I hope you get. So that's the idea of this. If we point this particular container to align everything vertically, if we duplicate this container, it's going to align vertically. So we want to do it horizontally. And once we do it so, make sure you select that container inside, the first container inside, and make it 100%. So we have dropped the second container, which is this second one, we dropped this div. And the first container we drop inside, which is this one, we make sure it is 100% width. Once it is 100% width, let me draw out the third layer of this styling so that we can know what we are doing. So we are assuming that this is the main section, which is this one, which is 100%. And we have the second section inside, which is the one which is 80%. Okay, this one now. Now we are having the third one, which is the one we made inside to be 100% width, because it's now assuming 100% of the 80% is 100%. Okay, 100% of 70% is 100%. 100% of 50% is 100%. So it doesn't calculate that way. So this is 100%, this is 80%, but anything we are putting inside this parent container is assuming that this parent container is 100%. This parent container is only 80% to the parent container that is above it, which is 100%. I will explain that in another lesson. So, but people who are actually following this alongside will understand what I'm talking about. Now, this particular one over here, we will have to drop in a container inside, just a single container inside, but that container is going to be stretched 100% width, which is the 80% of what we have here. Now, when we stretch that container 100% width, we are going to duplicate it. Since we align this to be what? Remember the rule here. Since we align everything to be horizontal, all this container will have to stack what? Horizontally. So whatever container we drag in here, even if it is 100% width, it's going to what? Cascade what? Horizontally. So we will drop a container here 100%, and we duplicate it. It's going to be 50-50. So you're going to take half, and this one is going to take half, which is what? 50-50. But if we duplicate this into 3, since it is 2 now, we add it one more. It's going to be what? 33.3, 33.3, and 33.3. Okay, which is what we're going to get here now. So we're going to get something like this. 33.3, which is the first size, 33.3, which is the second size, and 33.3, which is 100 divided by 3. This simply is how to do this. Is just 3 levels, 3 tests. I'm going to actually come back. I'm going to actually recap what we did here. But this is simply how we can actually do this. Now, what we're going to do is that you pick on this. Remember, this is 80%, okay? And this is 100%. The container inside here are 100% each. This is 100%. This is 100%. And this is 100%. Now, they automatically are going to divide themselves by 33.3. Okay, 33.3, 33.3. Let me explain this fraction. So, every content inside of here now, automatically we created it, it becomes 100%. It will stretch to the edge if it's Elementor. If it's oxygen builder, it will be in the middle, but it's still what? That 100%, you can what? Stretch it to 100% inside of that width. But when you divide this 100%, all of them, you divide, you duplicate them into 3, the 100% into 3 inside a container, which is assuming as the parent, which is 100%. Forget about this. It's 100% to the content inside of it. Any parent container, whether it is the smallest one, let me take for instance, this one that is 100% here. If we add 3 containers inside and cascade them horizontally, they are going to see this content as 100%. That's why we wrote here 100%, because it is on its own 100%, but inside the content is belonging to it is 33.3%. I hope that is very clear. So when it is divided and what? Divided by the container guiding it, it assumes this size. But when it is dividing itself, it is what? 100%, because itself doesn't have anything to compete with. But when there is another element to compete with it, it becomes what? It breaks down. Now, if we duplicate this to make it 4 container in here, it's now going to be 25, 25, 25, 25. But still what? 100, 100, 100, 100 on its own. Because when we delete 3 of them and leave only 1, the 1 will stretch and become 100% on all 2. I hope that is well explained. So these are the basic things we need to understand. Now, let me recap everything that we did here so we understand. Let's not get confused along the line. So first off, we dropped in a container, and that container is the section, the main section. The next thing we drop in what? Another container inside. But inside of this first container we drop, which is the div here, we make sure everything what is what? Middle align and center align, so that the container, which is the first mother container to these child containers, is going to be in the middle. So that whatever we are doing here, we can add padding top and padding bottom. But if this content now, we didn't align it that way, it is going to push this content to the top side, and we have enough space at the bottom part, which doesn't make any sense. Okay, that's the first level. We created what? 100%, and the container we drop inside, we made it 80%. Okay, and in that 80%, we dropped in a container inside of it, one, and make it 100% if it's oxygen, but Elementor automatically it assumes what? 100% width. So since it's 100% width, we select on the container, which is 80% the parent container, and make sure that the elements are aligned horizontally, not vertically. So since it's aligned horizontally, we drop in one content or one div inside again. That div is going to automatically become 100% if it's Elementor, but oxygen builder is going to be what? Say in the center, like we sketched here. Then that div, we are going to stretch it to be 100% if it's oxygen builder, and it's Elementor page builder, we leave it as it is. Now we are going to what? Select on one of that div inside and duplicate it into 3, which we divided by 33.3 each of them. And once this is divided, automatically they are going to what? Create the grid we are looking for. But if you actually want to create this without going through this process, all you need to do is to select the container which we dropped here, the second one, select on it and enable grid. When you enable grid, which is the same form I talked about here, we have here vertical align, V align, we have horizontal align, H align, and we have G align, which is the grid. When we select on vertical align, we are aligning all elements there vertically. When we select horizontal align, we are aligning all elements here horizontally, but this is horizontally aligned. But vertical align, this particular content, we have to cascade under each and every one of them. But if you are making this grid, we are now letting itself control itself. Now, the disadvantage of making a content grid is that you can't give this particular element a particular size. Now, since we created this with a div, we actually can give this particular one a 40% size, give this last one a 40%, and give this middle one a 20%, which amounts to what? 100%. Now, bear in mind, don't forget to always select on this container outside and give it a gap. so that there will be a little more space between these elements one after the other. But that's by the way. Okay, now when we select on grid, to do it on grid, automatically all of this must be the same width. You can't make any changes to the width. It's automated. Okay, so the disadvantage of using a grid is that you don't have total control on what the width of the container, the child container, which the grid are going to be built on. Now that you select a section or a container guiding the div inside and you make it a grid, doesn't automatically convert this to grids. Okay, if you have not added any container inside, when you select a section you newly added and make it a grid, you need to first of all toss in a div or a container. It will assume the size. You finish your design from there, you can duplicate it to how many sizes you want. Okay, and the advantage of a grid is that when you toss in the first grid, when you make an element section a grid, then toss in the first container inside, it will not cascade. It will automatically assume the size width of the grid you give it. We can now decide that we want this particular container to be a grid of 3. It will automatically have 3 grid. So even if we drop one div here, it will not make it 100%. It will assume the size. Until we duplicate, it will now replace all of these spaces. If you make it 4 grid, it's automatically going to contrast these things. It's also not going to calculate itself for you, just as the one we calculated when we added the 100%, then duplicated it by whatever amount we did. I hope you understand this very clearly. It's very simple. We're going to bring more further complex analysis like this, so you best understand how these things work. It's very easy. There is no big deal in this. There's no big deal in this. These are just basic concepts that you need to actually play around with. And then when you get used to it, it becomes very fun. Okay? So when you drop in your content, horizontal align, when you contain your materials, then you can divide them by whatever size you want by what duplicating them. So if you have any question, you can drop that in the comment section below. And once again, my name is Manuel from Kata Studios. Do have a wonderful day.